Morning and karibu sana to the program. Let's take a look at what's happening in the markets today, being the 19th day of March 2025. The Kenyan economy is projected to get better, and also the supplementary budget for the next financial year is also signed into law by the president. So that is paving the way for where the money will come from to help in running different departments, including UHC, that is universal healthcare, infrastructure, education, etc., etc. And that's exactly what I want to talk about. But even with that, the budget policy is also, part of the process. And I just want to take a look at some of the things on how it's going to be, consolidating the gains, as far as that's, the bottom-up economic transformation agenda of the Kenya Kwanza administration is concerned. But the big question is, how does it feel in your pocket as a citizen? How does it feel? And having in mind that, many Kenyans are saying that it's not enough. I have Honorable Wilson Sosion, who is a former NATSEC-Gen. I know he's a happy man that at least there is some hope for the teachers in the country, that some money has been set aside for the teachers hiring. You must be happy. Walimu. Good morning.
Good morning, Victor.
Good to see you.
Of course, I have every reason to be happy.
Right.
Because the money that is availed to finance line programs in education, particularly to hire teachers, speaks to what I fought for over the years in this country with a lot of passion. And I'm happy that now there's a government in place that is extremely responsive to these particular matters. And so the supplementary budget it's a good thing. It speaks to good things, employment of teachers, support of the medical insurance cover for teachers. I established it myself after shipping out teachers from NHI to TSC, and generally enhancing financing in various other government programs, because we only don't look at one isolated program. We can deal with education alone. There's health, there's infrastructure, and there are many other areas that also requires a financial breather so that programs can move on, and so that the economy can grow. That is actually how the economy can grow.
18 billion shillings, is that enough?
You devote resources.
18 billion shillings?
What is enough?
Is it okay with you?
I think that is what has been projected, and that is what is within the budget of the Teacher Service Commission. But I know it's not enough. We need 116. We needed 116,000 teachers, but if money that is available will cover up to 76,000. So I would say it's not enough. So if the economy can create more money, I will still insist that more money is put to hire more teachers, because when you hire more teachers, it means you avail teachers in every classroom, and therefore you guarantee quality teaching, and you offload households, represented by Mheshimiwa here, from indirect cost of paying salaries for teachers through BOM. So really, you offload the cost of education from household, and you load it fully on government, so that government can fully pay.
FCPA, Hesbon Omolo, good morning. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Victor.
When we hear Sosiona mefungua tarumbeta, just know it's about to go down. When it comes to education, that's it. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
The economy, how is Kenya doing? Let me ask you in 30 seconds.
I think Kenya is doing relatively well, given the journey we walked over the last 2 years. I've always reminded Kenyans that the presidency, as it is now, was going to deal with a lot of challenges. Our public debt situation has been very bad over the many years back. And therefore, still a lot of challenges to be surmounted. But by and large, certain fundamentals are starting to look right, especially when you look at the agricultural sector.
Allow me to cut you short. Let me fix the microphone. Apologies for that. I'll come back to you. Apologies for that. Okay. Mheshimiwa, so this bill is finally, Parliament passed it. It's now law. That sets now the ball rolling for the next process. Good morning.
Morning to you. Basically for me, supplementary is one of those small things. There are bigger things. Small things in the sense that it's only looking at expenditure in the next 3 months. We are actually left with 3 months. Sometimes people don't understand, and that is where broad-based comes in. There's something Mbadi has done for this country that many people would not have done it. And what is it that Mbadi has done? In the past, we would be dealing with a third supplementary. But he said, look, we have to reorganize the manner in which we do our expenses, the manner in which we do our budgeting, the manner in which we deal with the issues of money, and try to be as realistic as possible. And the issue here he was dealing with, which in quotes he didn't talk about, was basically to deal with over-ambitious budget and actually deal with the issue of budgeting for corruption. Because if you avail more money than a ministry would spend towards the end of the financial year, what happens, there is appetite for people to spend on unnecessary things, an appetite for people to look for loopholes in the system so that they just get the money out and not productive. So I'm very happy that we are now just dealing with one supplementary to the end of the financial year. Yes.
Okay. Of course, the empty seat is for Honorable Stephen Munania, Deputy Governor of Murang'a. He's on the way. He'll be here shortly. So don't mind, he'll be here very quickly. All right, so gentlemen, let me take you through the front page of the local dailies, then we get into the discussion. On the front page of the Daily Nation, this is what I have. Mexican cartel rain drug lab in Kenya. That is on the front page of the Daily Nation. Narcotics production is on the rise in the country, warns U.S. report. That is a damning report. Mexican cartel rain drugs lab in Kenya. What does it say? That a new report by the United States Department of State has revealed that a meth or crystal meth, that is what I'm talking about, production lab linked to dangerous Mexican cartel had been in operation in Namanga until September last year, serving as a major indictment of the country's fight against narcotics, even as international criminal organizations continue to operate in plain sight. That is what's on the front page of the Daily Nation. On the front page, Gashagua's allies told to vacate their offices. It is now on the headlines, you know, one of them being Ndindi Nyoro, who actually addressed the media yesterday saying that he's not the first one to vacate the office and there's no big deal about it. Puzzle as State House deletes then restores tender files on portal. That is also on the front page of the Daily Nation. Contract details relating to several tenders awarded by State House were deleted and then restored on a public procurement regulatory authorities portal, raising questions over the move to hide data on financial spending at the House on the Hill. This is a story about what is happening at State House, and according to the Daily Nation, while that data was available at the PPRA's portal months ago, it was missing from the PPRA's database as recently as 5:30 p.m. yesterday. So you can take a look at that story. It's on page 4 and 5 in details. You can take a look at that very quickly. On the front page of the Star newspaper, only 4 million people paying for SHA. That is on the front page of the Star. Non-salaried members pay only when sick. That is according to the Star newspaper. Only 4 million people paying for the SHA, and says that non-salaried members pay only when sick. That is what's there. Still on the front page, again, Ndindi Nyoro, I don't know why I was kicked out, says Ndindi, that is there. And of course, the President William Ruto and Netherlands King Willem Alexander and Queen Maxima at State House yesterday, starting their 4-5-day tour of the country. And finally, before I get to my guest, on the front page of the Standard, enemy of the press. That is on the front page of the Standard newspaper, enemy of the press. The gentleman here is PS, Professor Kisiangani, on the spot again. Not again, rather, on the spot, enemy of the press. And the Standard says that Professor Edward Kisangani is a walking contradiction. The ICT principal secretary leveraged on the media to rise to his position. Yet now, he seems to have forgotten this, becoming one of the biggest threats to press freedom. So, the Standard says that he uses coercion and government businesses to suppress independent journalism. His latest action have withdrawn condemnation from Kenyans, journalists and lawyers who argue that they are both illegal and immoral. All right. Gentlemen, where do I start? Let me start with the most important one. On this page, Mheshimiwa, look at that, 4 million people.
Yes, and I want to have my say.
Go ahead.
On this. Those of you who followed me debate UHC at Parliament when we were passing the law, I was very particular. And I still want to take my line of argument.
Yes.
And my line of argument has always been that the best thing to happen for this country was the president having the need to deal with the issue of health and introducing UHC. However, I was very particular that you cannot use salary to fund whichever way, anywhere. And I have asked people to give me examples because we are not living in isolation, where you can fund UHC using tax from salary. And I offered a solution, and which I still offer. And I can tell you, Victor, you will come back to me on this one. UHC presupposes four fundamental things. One, you elevate health to a right. You elevate it, that everybody has a right to live a healthy life. Then secondly, you assume that in every household, there would be a sick patient at one time or another. And then thirdly, you assume that each one of us has a responsibility towards another on matters health. And fourthly, you assume that government therefore must provide funds to deal with this issue. So then the question comes, what is the best way to fund health? You must then look for a model that each one of us contributes to it without coercion. You contribute to health. Now, in a country where the economics, the single economics of a household cannot be determined on a same perimeter.
Yes.
Or same medium, you then must be very, very clear. And I said, just the way we are funding infrastructure, you know, through fuel levy, the easiest way to make every one of us contribute, including the one in the informal sector, was to use fuel levy to fund health tax. Tax. You only need 2 shillings.
Health tax.
2 shillings for everybody on fuel levy. And it's doable. It is doable. Universal health is doable. My friend, people should not stop this story of imagining. The issue here is two. One, we are not generating enough money to fund this thing. And this is what people are not telling us. You know, you cannot use 4 million to fund 47 million. 51 million. 4 million people. How will you do it? Even if you took 80% of my salary, 80% of his salary. That is for universal health. The moment you are hit, let me tell you where this thing is hitting us. The moment you are hit with the chronic illnesses in a society where we don't have a proper cancer system, diabetes, blood pressure, and then you have the young generation, requiring money for Linda Mama. You know, you have to provide money for Linda Mama.
Yes.
Na mtoto, isn't it? we must agree as a country that we need a healthy nation. We must agree as a country that just the way education is as critical, health is as critical.
Thank you.
You know, I was telling someone yesterday, actually I had a debate with the Minister for Education, and I was telling him he's moving too slowly. I need an educational bond so that I can fund education in this country. Similarly, we need to be very, very creative in funding health.
I will ask you, education board to do what? But you'll answer that one later on. You know, FCPA, listening to this, whereas 10 million people have registered, 18 million people have registered with the Social Health Authority, only 4 billion people are currently contributing to SHIF. I mean, that is a very huge margin. But as Mheshimiwa is saying, there should be a model to fund it.
I think I would take it back a bit.
Yes.
Article 43 gives every Kenyan a right to health. And besides that, there is the issue of emergency medical treatment. And then we have social security. So when you break it down, we have over 50 million Kenyans. And those who are in formal employment are hardly 3 million. The other 1 million that you're talking of, the 4, is probably in the informal sector. That is adding up to the 4 million. The rest of the Kenyans, and our poverty index indicates that almost 39% of us are now falling before the poverty index. So clearly, financing healthcare through taxation only won't work. The logical thing to do is have a mix of what can work through a process that does not raid the payslip,
yes,
but also ensures that health being a social good, you cannot then look at it purely from a commercial perspective. And in any sector, including education, health, 80% plus should always be driven by government funding. Only a small percentage should be in the private hands. That is a properly functional system in any way, in any part of the world. And therefore, whereas there are certain good things around this Social Health Authority Act that has been put in place in terms of ability to deal with chronic cases that were really derailing and sending people to poverty, selling properties before their kinsmen die, which is now sorted very well. But now when it goes to other aspects of the treatment, I think we are lost. There is a very critical aspect of this Social Health Authority, that is the primary health care. Because through that and through the CHPs, you're able to pick out diseases early enough, bring out solutions that then ensure that you're able to have a healthy society.
Yes.
But health does not run on its own. You also realize that 80% of diseases are waterborne. What is the state of water in the country? So a lot of other interconnected things. But the bottom line, as Mheshimiwa Nabi has mentioned, we need to unbundle the cost of providing healthcare in this SHA model. See what is it that can be taxed either in a universal manner, so that then we also avoid the kind of anger I'm seeing with Kenyans, that they feel their pay slip is unnecessarily or heavily raided, and therefore disposable income is compromised. At the same time, we are also still dealing with challenges of, in certain occasions, people still seeking help to sort their problems.
Yes.
The two Waheshimiwas here know how many times people flock their homes seeking funds towards sorting the healthcare. If you told Mheshimiwa Nabi that we'll now deduct you 30 or 40,000 a month, but your constituents will not come to your doorstep seeking funding for medical services, they'll be very happy to do that. But how practical is it for us to get to that space?
Yes.
So my parting shot on that is that this universal health coverage is a brilliant idea because it's one anchored in the Constitution, but the way in which it's going to be funded, the way it's going to be executed must be rethought so that we are able to deal with all the facets of it. I think on chronic, we've got it, but it's too expensive to fund.
Yes.
I have many relatives who are benefiting and they're very happy. But is it sustainable coming from the pocket? The answer is no. So there must be an element of budgetary allocation that directly funds it. I'm happy looking at this supplementary budget. A good chunk of it has gone towards
health.
4 billion has gone towards the health. Also ensuring that the essential commodities you need in the facilities at the village or at the very low level are able to be provided. And that will also mean that the driver of medical commodities, that is Kenya Medical Supplies Authority, is also facilitated to be able to operate and ensure that even though all the level 2 and 3 hospitals are largely within the county facilities, they're able to access medicines, and even if the payments delay, service is not lost.
All right, great. You know, we'll take a look at that, because when you look at some of the biggest winners, education, health, and education and health, getting a bigger chunk of that money.
There's no winner there. You know, you are misrepresenting facts.
Okay.
He has just told you that education required, TS alone, required in excess of 46 billion. We only gave them 18. So we can't say a winner. We have attempted to.
Okay.
I think
I stand guided.
Probably you are talking of a half full glass rather than half empty.
I stand guided. Thank you, Mheshimiwa. I stand guided. So when you listen to the two gentlemen, and by the way, we talked about SHA around 2 weeks ago here.
Yes.
At length. Kenyans called, and I think you are here on this particular set.
Yes.
The disparity. One lady, let's just think about it. One lady from, it was from Oyugis, who said that she went to a hospital in Kadongo and was given only 75 shillings. You remember? And there's a gentleman who called from Lolongo who said the entire bill was paid, 34,000 shillings. So when you look at the disparity, when it comes to you know, the SHA and the contribution and people who are in this system, 18 million people to 4 million. When are we going to close this chapter once and for all?
Victor, I am very happy you can continue the conversation on SHA.
Yes.
And it is good for Kenyans to give their feedback as much as possible, and the leaders also to understand and actively participate in providing solutions. What we need is to get solutions and to make UHC work. Victor, I still state that the road to universal health coverage by Kenya has been very difficult. Kibaki administration tried, in fact, twice, through Charity Ngilu in 2003. But you know, the idea was workers in government to lose their medical allowances so that it can be used to treat Kenyans. We said actuarially that is impossible. And of course, that was interfering with collective agreements that were signed. And that is how it collapsed, because government could not identify another alternative avenue of funding universal health coverage.
Yes.
Professor Anyang' Nyong'o tried rolling out around 2010, 2011, but it was dogged by a lot of controversies and confusion at the NHIF, and that was left. Uhuru administration tried so many flagships, and it never worked.
Yes.
Kenya Kwanza administration, through President Ruto, has been bold to take the universal health coverage head on. The generation of four acts of parliament, one focusing on primary health care as a standalone to make it work, and of course primary health care coverage is fully funded by government. It's not funded by members' contributors. That's the ideal situation. What it means is that the dispensaries, the level 1, 2, the level 2, 3, are supposed to be fully equipped with medical personnel, and any Kenyan visiting the primary health care facility will be treated without making any pay. And this is a big contribution of government. You can imagine, Victor, if indeed all the health centers in the country are fully funded by government, fully equipped and everything, and well done, and coupled with the operation of community health promoters, then we'll reduce progression of diseases to level of admission cases. So I think this adoption of this model, which is mixed model, where government is paying a substantial part of it, is going to relieve the admissions at level 4, 5, and 6, and is going to relieve the pressure on shift. The other aspect is emergency and critical illness, which for the first time, no insurance institution in this country was covering. But now there is a budget allocation from government to cover that, so that as we are sitting here, dialysis patients are being attended. And I congratulate Murang'a County, because you have a mobile dialysis machine within this same framework. And really, patients who are suffering from diabetes and were expected to dip into their pockets to pay for dialysis are not paying anymore. These are grand achievements. And the problem now is the understanding of how this model works and who is supposed to do what. It's the responsibility of all of us Kenyans. Let us address where problems are. I think there are a few challenges within the rollout. One, civic education. There is no model to carry out civic education and to sensitize people seriously. A few counties like Murang'a and others have done it well. They are way ahead. There are no politics about it. It's about getting solutions and being innovative at that county level. How did Murang'a, for example, decide to get a mobile dialysis machine? It is not happening in other counties. This is a county that understands that this is a critical function. What national government has done, let us do more at that level. And universal health coverage must work. It is not a political item. It's collective for all of us. Let's all point out issues. I agree with Nabi by looking at the financial challenges. I dare say, if we've registered 20 million Kenyans, and the only income to shift, because the contribution to shift is what is being remitted from employees who are on payroll, then there is a problem. Because those who are registered and have been identified by MTI should pay their premiums. You know, the shift operates on a social solidarity framework. You pay not because you are sick. You pay so that somebody who falls sick can be treated. There are those who have paid and have retired and have lived on in life without getting sick. And if you look at those who are making a lot of noise around, are those who are not sick, those who have not gone for treatment, and of course, the bit of unobjective politics. Those who are bastardizing. I've checked.
How did you know?
I worked in that space when I introduced it. No, look here, Victor. When I introduced it for teachers, the loudest critics were teachers who are not getting sick. But teachers who are going for treatment.
To be taken care of when you get sick.
But teachers who were sick and were treated were giving testimonies. And by with time, there was an equilibrium of making it.
Thank you.
Before we go to a break, there's an issue here.
Can we just welcome him?
Thank you very much, Victor.
While you were away, they talked about Murang'a.
Yes.
No, he was here.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I was off camera. Thank you for having me. And I want to apologize for being a little bit late. But this is a very interesting discussion. And as you go for break, I would like to say just one thing, that bold ideas requires very specific implementation strategies. Because bold ideas are overarching in a society, they have so many things that go into it. And when the conversation that we are talking about health, whether we are talking about Taifa Care in its whole extent, from the primary health care, from the critical illness health insurance, all that concept requires very specific action that is well thought out, all the way from recruitment, all the way from funding to its implementation and funding of facilities of all the way from level 2 to level 6. So when you look at those bold action, and I have to say it's the national government has done a very bold action to say that we need social health insurance for everybody. That's fine. It's a very bold actions. But it also needs to be followed by very specific implementation strategies. Because one of the major issue that is right now facing Kenyans is how do we fund the model? Why are right now Kenyans not paying who are outside? If you remember NHIF, when there was a standardized pay, then you knew that this is what I'm supposed to pay, and you used to pay a year in advance. You pay it in its entirety, and you are able to be covered under NHIF. The new funding model clearly indicates that you need to pay as per your income. But the tool to measure that income so that you are able to pay a commensurate amount is not accurate.
Thank you. Can we take a break?
And then we'll break back. I hope that we get to come back and have that discussion.
Because you will distort my thoughts.
I promise you not. We are 4 men here. We'll remind you. We'll remind you. All right, let's take a break. And of course, when you look at the supplementary budget, health is also been given a particular amount. We'll also be looking at that. 4 billion. Looking at what is happening in the markets today on the Viewpoint. Our numbers will be on later on. That is 0716 103301. 0716. Welcome back. Welcome back. It's a club of men. Okay. Mheshimiwa Nabi, before you forget what you're saying, go ahead.
What I wanted to say, and I'm very happy the governor is here, implementing universal health care, you must do a 360-degree turn. One is where we are today, we have realized gaps. And we should be spending time addressing those gaps. We should be spending time looking for solution out of the difficulties we have. And the gaps are very, 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 very clear.
Right.
The first gap is a framework, a legal framework of compliance. Right? I have a citizen who comes to me and says, I have this health problem and I've gone to a facility I cannot be attended to because I'm not a member of SHA. I said, fine. Why are you not a member of SHA? Can we then register you? We register SHA, we pay that money at that time. But then this fellow goes and he's told you have a referral. You have to come back. We have attended to you today, but you have to come back for another 2-3 sessions. As he goes back, he's told the allocation you have is exhausted. We are stuck. What is the point here I'm trying to say? There is one fundamental issue we did not address when we are starting SHA, which we must find a way to fill that gap. Omoloya will tell you, like a pension scheme, when you are starting, you must be very clear on your actual value, what we call the best money. Unfortunately for us, we started implementing SHA without having that pool of funds. And that's why Murang'a beats everybody else. They had to think through. Now, how do we make sure that we don't exhaust the pool of funds we have so that SHA does not fade? Now that we got ourselves into that quagmire, we need to look at our actual valuation for this insurance scheme and determine what did we need that we did not have and how do we meet that gap. That's number one. Number two is the question I told you, that please, we are looking at the end, and that's why it's very expensive. We are looking at the end, that I've gotten ill. What has happened where universal health care has succeeded? They have put enough funds in the primary care and public health. You have very few cases that end up in 1, admission, 2, level 5, and level 6, which is the guzzler of money, right? And this therefore says 2 things. Where Omolo came from, you are wasting your energy and time if you only look at healthcare without looking at what causes the problem, which is water, environment. I go to my nearest health facility, it's called Mautuma. And the people there, the clinical officer will tell you diarrhea, diarrhea, diarrhea. The next one would be malaria, malaria. I mean, these are things that are environmental.
Yeah.
These are things that we can address. So as much as you are putting money in health, in SHA, can we put enough money in dealing with what causes the problem?
The primary roots.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then it will be affordable.
Because I'm coming to that, because when you look at the supplementary budget too, the health sector received, that is KEMSA received recapitalization of 1.5 billion shillings. What we're talking about, the primary healthcare fund, that is seed capital, received 3 billion shillings. Emergency, chronic, and critical illness fund, that is seed capital of 3 billion shillings. Healthcare interns stipends will stand at 1.5 billion shillings. And then we have Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital will get 1 billion shillings. Primary healthcare networks, 0.6 billion shillings. Kenyatta National Hospital, 1.7 billion shillings. And finally, Kenyatta Teaching and Referral Hospital, 1.4 billion shillings. Obono, let me come back to you on this one. Then how do we come to a point where now we want to stem this slowdown when it comes to funding this?
I think just like Nabi has mentioned, the entire health ecosystem, we need to look at it more like a pyramid. That at the very bottom, you have the community, and then the first layer of intervention, you have the CHPs, which are the level ones. And we have enough number, about 106,000 of them. And if you look at the kind of data they've been able to generate, in terms of people who have been tested for diabetes, people who have been tested for hypertension, people who have been tested for the related malaria, deaths, child mortality, the data is massive. And that is the first point of intervention that then prevents a lot of cases progressing. Then you go to the level 2 and level 3 hospitals that are spread across every community. Again, you look at how well funded are these health facilities in terms of access and the medical infrastructure that is required there. Then now, as you progress to the other levels, the numbers thin out. And then the data you generate here, I'm not quite conversant with the extent to which the digital act within the four acts in under SHA has addressed the issue of utilizing the data you generate to be able to create interventions. Because if consistently this is what you are treating in a particular area, you cannot then resign that you'll pump more resources to treat people there. You must then relook at the intervention that then stops this bleeding, so that then you have fewer cases and resources spent there. But the overall object of it is this: what is the cost of implementing the entire SHA framework in terms of what he talked about, the actual valuation of all this? And then once you're able to do that, align resources appropriately, but also more importantly, if you do not roll out the right kind of information like Sosion was saying, and we invest a lot in ensuring that the public is aware, you will end up bastardizing a good thing. And this is a revolutionary thing. I have close relatives, when you talk about people who go through dialysis, remember these were people who were being treated before astronomically, they would still die, and they would leave families having sold all their properties. That is now sorted out. Even if for anything else, the amount of money and pressure you saved from families is enormous. Now go to the other aspect of you have gotten an accident. Hospitals will struggle to admit you. Now that is hived off. To what extent have we destabilized the insurance sector that was funding some of these things that had certain limitations? So I think if we look at it that way, then now look at the best models. And I gave the example of Murang'a County. As a member of WISPA Council, we normally walk around counties and then engage. And I saw something very important. If you ask the deputy governor here, how many people have been treated of malaria today in Murang'a at the stroke of a pen, he will check and tell you. How many people have visited the health facilities, be they level 2? Real time. So that kind of data would even help you preempt a possible outbreak of any disease, because you can always already pick, there is a surge, 2, 3, 4 people consistent, we need to move in.
That's why you concentrate on.
That is where then you concentrate. So I think that if we do that, then we are able to sort this out. But I think, yes, I think as I conclude the point, is that we need to appreciate that the issue of health intervention that we are looking at requires resources, requires communication that is very coherent and consistent, and therefore we need to also allocate enough resources towards
disseminating the right information. All right.
Allow me to come in and first of all, I want to agree with him.
Because Muranga has been mentioned.
I think you should have more time with this experience.
Okay, fine.
And that is why you would give me half a second. Then he can benefit from, because I'm not in that space. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think today, Victor, we have the most productive approach to share with this panelist, I must confess. And where we are now as a country, let us be scientific, empirical, and objective. Let us look at the gaps in the implementation of SHA and find solutions. That's where we are. We now need, we don't need to engage in political guesswork. I don't believe in engaging in guesswork, but we need to focus on the very specifics. Listening to ISPAC here, a very big institution that can help us in accounting and streamlining. And I'm happy they've worked with Muranga and would like to listen to the stories of Muranga and the challenges and what we need to do. We need to sanitize all the levels of healthcare system. CHB at level 1, let it work. It will help you, it will give you early detection, and you have. And those community health promoters are being paid for. Is a big step that the government has taken to have CHPs. Level 2s and 3s. Let us have the dispensaries fully funded with the drugs and with personnel. And that is the first port of call, even to deal with the registration of SHA and to enforce the payment of premiums and through to level 4. And by the time you get to level 5 and 6, many things shall have been sorted out. And then, of course, the emergency and critical illnesses is a big thing that now is being paid for by government. Now, the other area that needs to be sorted out very seriously, and I agree with Nabi, is funding. We must have a stabilized assurance of funding of every level. Of course, government is committed to finance PHC, but then how much is it directed through the budget, honestly and objectively? And then number 2, in terms of registration, those who have registered, how many are supposed to pay? And how do you enforce payment so that they pay the premiums? And then out of the 20 million, how many are indigents so that they are factored by the national budget and the national treasury so that they are covered? And once this is done, all these administrative logistics, you tidy the whole system so that there are no issues. This is one of the best things to roll out. If two previous presidents who were very effective in their own ways were unable to roll out, and here is a president who has taken the bull by the horns, and we have leadership. It's no longer the president's property. It's now the property of all of us. Let's get down and make it work. And I think as a country, let us focus on gaps and challenges of UHC.
And let me respond to one critical issue on the implementation framework. And this, I'm going to look at broad strokes of the implementation framework of the national government and the counties when it comes to shared functions such as health. When you look at and giving health an example as that has been used here, the primary healthcare network starts with the CHP. Its funding model and how it works, including its ICT infrastructure, needs, and I want to give an example of its successes and its challenges here. It's a very good framework in allowing CHP to go into the community so that they can assess such issues before they get to the hospital level. But their funding model requires both county funding and the national government funding. If you fund this from not from a joint account, they are being funded separately. What we usually face from an implementation framework is that as a county, we are dealing with these people on a daily basis in our dispensaries. We are dealing them on a daily basis. We pay their stipends as every month.
Yes.
But you also find that the national government delays their stipends for more than 3 months before they get paid. That's a funding issue that needs to be sorted out. We pull these funds into a single, what we call specific grants into the county so that they can be able to pay CHPs from a single point of view. Yes. Grant. Similarly, let's talk about the ICT infrastructure. The CHP are working from the perspective that they have a data system that they clock and provide key information. This information goes directly to Afya House without having a stopgap into the counties that are implementing the primary health care issues at the county level. We are the people who can be able to adequately respond to some of these issues when we have the data. But currently, as it is, the system only transmits to the Ministry of Health, and the Ministry of Health does not transmit that information back. So as a county, and giving an example, and I'm glad that they are very conversant with the ICT system infrastructure in Murang'a, what we did, we had to develop our ICT infrastructure in our health facility from the ground up. It means every dispensary, every health center, all level 4s and level 5 are all digitized. Okay. So that now you can be able to tell which patient enters in which facility and what diagnosis they have. Very good. So when we come to funding, and when we come to funding, now it's an issue about looking at, we have national laws on social health insurance. I'm going to leave the members of parliament who deal in that law to be able to give specifics on that. Okay. However, at the county level, we have the responsibility of implementing infrastructure of funding, implementing health workers funding. And when you look at certain issues, for example, in terms of infrastructure, in Murang'a we have had to be very innovative to look at the private sector as our partners so that we can be able to get the necessary infrastructure we have. And that's the case where Sosion was talking about our mobile dialysis clinic. It came from having a direct partnership with organizations such as Benacare that utilized a study that was conducted by a university PhD student of JKU Art, together with our doctors in Murang'a level 5, a study of renal diseases in Murang'a. We utilized that data to underscore the challenge of dialysis and the challenge of blood sugar in Murang'a County so that we are able to give specific interventions. And one of those interventions were, first, we have to increase the capacity of the already existing renal unit in Murang'a level 5. It had 5 machines. We increased it by another 8 machines. Now it has 13 machines. Because dialysis is a closed loop. The only way to get a seat or to get a seat in that machine, it's either a person gets a transplant, a person passes on, or even a person goes to another facility. So it's a closed loop, anywhere how you want to look at it. So in order for you to create a space for any other patient, you have to add a bed. And that was the first intervention. The second intervention was to be able to bring in a partner who understood this concept. Yeah. So we set up a second dialysis center using the same partner. Okay. So when now we wanted now to cover the entire county, we had to be innovative to be able to bring a mobile dialysis unit that is composed of 4 beds. It has all nurses, and it now moves in 3 facilities. That means you, in extension, have moved into 3 facilities without creating...
You can lend us that brain from JQuat to help us. That's the brain we need to have around. Gentlemen, I want us to get into this. And before I get to that, allow me to ask you, what is the general state of the economy currently? Let's talk money today. From that. I tied universal healthcare because it's gained some money from the supplementary budget too, and now what we are having right now is the economy, the funding. What is the state of the economy? Can we take a call, Director? Okay. So what's the state of the economy?
I think the state of the economy is such that we are a little bit on a rebound. Our inflation rate has come down from 9.2 about a year ago to about 3.5 today. And then we've also had a drop in exchange rate from over 160 to now 129. These are very good indicators. Other than that, we've also had our foreign exchange reserve growing to about 5-month cover. That is about $10 billion US. So it means if you have importation, we don't have a problem because we can cover 5 months of imports. Then we've also had our fiscal deficit slowing down to about 5.2%. I'm yet to see what the supplementary budget may do to that, because that means additional budgetary allocation. So generally, what I'm trying to say is that there are signals that we are in the right trajectory. If you go to a bank today, the interest rate have dropped by 2 percentage points. Our CBR rate with central bank has also been dropped to about 10.75%. So those generally look good. The agricultural sector has indicators in sugar sector, in tea, and coffee exports, all looking good. But now when you come to the MSME sector, so many Kenyans are still falling under the poverty line. And it is clear that circulation of money in the economy is coming out as a challenge. One of the things that is building up that is that national government entities owe the private citizens who do business with it over 600 billion in terms of what is unpaid bills. And then counties owe about 200 billion. So that is close to a trillion of public funds of ordinary Kenyans doing business with government that is not yet been settled. And I think that explains why you see certain good indicators, but people say we can't see money in the pocket. So I think that speaks to something that the government needs to think about, even if it means getting a single bullet funding to unlock and unchoke the economy by releasing that money to the private sector, the business players, so that those who are facing foreclosures or bank recalls are able to address their challenges, and our tax revenues probably will start going up.
Already Kenyans are calling. Can I cut you short? That's okay. A gentleman called Samuel from Nyandara. Samuel, good morning.
But we have not said anything on the economy.
Hello? Okay, all right, let's just put it at that point slightly. But Mheshimiwa, coming back to you, Parliament played a key role. Of course, it had to go back to Parliament, and you approved it, and right now we are having. But what are some of the key economic sectors, you know, the trends? Talk about agriculture, tourism, GDP growth, and trade, etc., etc. What are we looking at? He's talked about funding, which is most important. The budget is here, but the source of that money, where it's going to come from, is not the big issue.
I think where we are today, in terms of the supplementary budget, we have been tried to be as realistic as possible, trying to cut out the excess fat so that we cut our jacket according to our size. And that is where the BBS comes in the sense that if you look at the principal statement of the BBS, even moving the target in terms of revenue downwards, and therefore insisting that we need to relook at our financing model, then it tells you that as a country and as a government supported by Parliament, we are looking at being as realistic as possible. But then there's something Molo has said. There's no very good reason in this country why we have the pending bill we have. And I'll go to...
There's no reason why we have pending bills?
Very good reason. Okay. And I want to share with you.
Okay.
Go to the counties and look at the 200 billion. You will find that they have already received the money they ought to have paid for these bills. Why are they pending? Why are they pending? Secondly, if you look at the 760 pending bill for national government, and this is data, I sit in the Public Accounts Committee, and we have engaged the minister. Almost 500 billion of this money is in penalties. Right? That is not being prudent. And why is it in penalties? The ripple effect, the fact that this money is in penalties, it means the people who financed, the people who did these projects, financed using money from elsewhere, which is a bank, which is a financial institution. Either they have been auctioned or something has happened to their money. Just a minute, to their business viability. And this has a ripple effect to the two sectors. There have always been an argument here. Why is education struggling, which is a social sector? Why is infrastructure struggling? And yet, there is a food basket. You know, you must understand what enables an economy. And an economist like Omolo will tell you that one critical factor is finance. It must enable the economy. Even if you have food, and you don't have money to do other sector functions, then you just will struggle with the economy.
Allow me to come in from a practical perspective as a village leader. You know, Mheshimiwa here is a national leader. For me, I'm a village leader there at the county. So I cannot speak to the national context, but I can be able to speak a little bit about the practicality about the status of economy as we experience it as the county. And I want to come in from the very perspective, from the food basket. Because our economy in this country... I believe
your contribution is more representative.
Yes.
Okay.
The conversation of the economy in the country surrounds the food baskets. Because we deal in food production, we deal in food sales, whether the economy in Nairobi here, Wakulima market, which does millions, hundreds of millions in sales of food. It's dealing with food that comes from the villages such as ours there in Murang'a and across the country. Speaking from this conversation, we have to realize that a majority of the people who provide such services and such goods do not come from the big farms that we see across in this country. They come from the small-scale farmers. And the need to be able to solve our economy, we need to commercialize the small-scale farming. And commercialization of small-scale farming requires that you have a clear and direct strategy. One, production, to harness production so that you can enhance that production. So that, for example, coffee production has reduced by a factor of 30% in the Mount Kenya producing, in the Mount Kenya counties. Whereas it has increased by 200% in Rift Valley. Why? Because Rift Valley, it was non-existent. Right now they are getting into...
So there's more focus there.
There is more focus there.
Okay.
However, the reason why it's reducing in the Mount Kenya region is because of the market. Because the market, when you have a market that is reducing, you get a challenge in primary production. Higher. Look at tea similarly. The challenges we are having with Sudan is going to reduce our sales in tea by a factor of 30%. And when you look at Murang'a, which last year did 19 billion in bonus of tea revenue, then by reducing that by a factor of 30% means that we are losing billions in revenue. So what are the interventions that we can make at the primary production level? In Murang'a, we have two programs that I would like to highlight that provides that intervention. Number one, commercialization. When we want to commercialize an issue, for example, like maize, in Murang'a, our farmers did maize for subsistent purposes. You just plant 2 lines for maize for your household consumption. So what did we do? We created an entire value chain where we went now to the millers and those who do the milling. For example, in Kirinyaga, we have Joy Millers, and across the country. We gave an MOU with them, come buy our maize from Murang'a. Then, when we have a contract now with millers, we go now to the farmer. We have a minimum guaranteed price for your maize. So what's the first thing we do? We provide seedlings, we provide the certified seeds. Then we provide fertilizer, which is both planting and top dressing fertilizer. So that now, once they get there, we create an entire value chain through cooperatives that now provide both education, planting, and also harvesting, so that we can take to the millers. By that factor of production, we have engaged 57,000 farmers in Murang'a alone, who are largely women who do subsistence farming in the last season. This season, we expect that by in fact, tomorrow, I'll be on the ground providing more certified seeds and fertilizer. And we are going to do 75,000. You look at another value chain, for example, what we have done with mango. We couldn't be able to commercialize mango in Murang'a because mango used to be bought at throwaway prices. So we using the same model, we were able to get mangoes from 2 shillings per kg all the way to 21 shillings per kg.
You see, DG, the thing is, when you say it's representative, I'm imagining somebody in Kitui or in Machakos, where there is production of mango. The gap between the farmer and the production and the final market is where the problem is.
Yes.
All right?
Yes.
So what do you think? Before I come to you, Mheshimiwa Sosion, allow me to bring ISPAC, because when you look at the block, how would you bridge that gap between the farmer and the final market?
Allow me before he responds.
Maybe just to correct certain things, because I think we are on air.
Maybe 1 minute.
We are on air, and certain things need to be put in the right context. Kenya's tea export to Sudan is only 5%.
Yeah.
And 59% of that had problems from way back in 2023 because of the civil unrest. So 30% I don't think is a correct figure. But having said that, the issue of mangoes in Murang'a and value chain space, there is what the county can do.
Yeah.
The element of doing business of processing mango is not a county responsibility. Enable the private sector to thrive, discuss and agree on guaranteed minimum pricing, organize your farmers and people in groups so that you're able to mobilize and mop up, and then you'll be able to access that. And I think you've done that in Murang'a with KVR.
Yes.
That is the model I would advise any county government to be able to do, so that we support farmers around that space. But I think the more important thing, when it comes to the agricultural sector, generally, fertilizer or inputs are key components. Subsidies around that space unlocks that space. That is very important. So let that not be lost. The other issue that we should not lose around issues of agriculture is that there are certain silent drivers that would make access to markets a challenge or otherwise. The issue of road infrastructure, that is very, very important. So those things need to be addressed, so that then the farmer is enabled to be able to produce.
So when you look at...
I just want to create a
correction. You sit in PSC.
Yes.
I'll come back to you. Let me get from Susion. When you look at the short term, some of the slowdowns, all right? Kenya will depend mostly on agriculture, all right? And at this particular point, I'm trying to look at some of the various factors, such as tighter microeconomics in this. How do we iron it out so that at the end of the day, it contributes to the general GDP of the country?
Yes, I like the trajectory that we are looking at economic recovery by looking at agriculture, which is pillar number 1 of our administration and the government. And Kenya is an agro-based economy. That's a fact. Our economy relies on agriculture, whether large scale or small scale. But if we want to address household poverty, we look at the success of agriculture by small scale farmers across the country with diversified agricultural activities, whether it is pastoralists in the north, whether it's fishermen in the lake and our Great Lakes, and whether it's coffee farmers in the mountains, tea, maize and all that, sugarcane farmers, we are beginning to see an upside. Agriculture being a backbone of our economy and our households, I think is a deliberate area of targeted intervention by government. A lot has gone into it. And I agree. If we can get a model where fertilizers will eventually be free to farmers, where seeds will be free to farmers, then the small-scale farmers will be happy to put in more efforts and produce their goods. Now, we've succeeded in the first tier of triggering production. Now, after we produce excess, what next? Then the aggregation and processing comes in. That is where, when Governor talks of a miller in Kirinyaga and signing an agreement with Murang'a, you can see what the county government of Murang'a has done in applying their mind, their resources, and their technical expertise to solve the problem of farmers. Once farmers produce their goods, you should be able to take up and process their goods and take them to the market. And I dare say at this point, it is time we audit ourselves to the extent of how we have implemented the Constitution. Agriculture is a devolved function, and counties need more funding for devolution. What is it that they're doing to work with the farmers in the most economical way to incentivize farmers and to assist farmers get income from the goods they're producing? Then very lastly, both at the county and at the national level, are we able to work on a guarantee of marketing of all agricultural products? That is, if we are able to produce and then we can process them and value add, then we can as well work on the marketing as well, because any agro-based activities that does not involve processing and marketing is zero work. And this is not going to be an event of a day. It's going to be a process. Intervention of one financial year, like Muranga you have done, you'll see your gaps this year. You'll see what to invest next year. So I think for us to transform our economy, we must be very deliberate.
Okay.
What is it that counties can do? What is it that national government can do? And in terms of the economy, because I don't want to look at the shilling that is stabilized and other things and the figures of KNBS, the macroeconomic stabilization and growth, which determines the micro. Our economy is potential now to grow to very productive level. But when you look at households, Victor, if you are able to fully finance health for every household, so that the household pays zero, if you are able to finance quality education for all households, so that the households can pay zero, and then you are able to support the household to engage in agro-based activities that they can earn income, then do you think that is a significant route of eliminating poverty? I think as a country, for once, let us focus on the development pillars and ensure it is not just trial to deliver,
Thank you.
But it is delivered.
Let me bring Mheshimiwa. You sit in the PSC. What are some of the indicators? Hesbon said that there is a potential sign of growth, the next general economic growth. But what is the projection from PSC?
I can tell you for sure.
Go ahead.
Omolo is right. In fact, at the macro level, we are doing much, much better than the micro level. And this is because we have been able to save over 1 trillion shillings in terms of debt payment because of the strong shilling, and that's a good sign. The other issue, which is critical, is from where we sit, is investment attraction, and that is where I think Sosioni is coming from.
Yes.
That even if we are showing potential, how are we maximizing this potential in terms of improving the quality of life? And for me, to improve the quality of life at basic level, there are two things. You are able to afford education, you are able to afford a meal. 3 meals a day. And you will agree with me that if you listen to Muranga, there's only two things here. You have a leadership that is applying its mind to what it needs to do as given to them by the Constitution. That's number one. Number two, you have a leadership that understands that when you are in a public office, your decisions must be for common good. And therefore, they protect the resources of in that county. I mean, Muranga is not getting excess money from any other counties in terms of shareable revenue. It is getting the same amount, and if not less. Okay? But they have decided that we want to make decisions that are for common good. And that is what we are lacking. In all this debate of the economy, it is about prudence. It is about fidelity to the Constitution. And I will tell you, if we were to save, and I've insisted on this, that sitting in Public Accounts Committee, you will get 400 billion shillings easily from closing tabs of corruption. The money I need in the education sector, if all of us were to be prudent, I'll get it from just that. In the current budget.
And it will employ
let me give a comment on...
okay, because I have 7 minutes, gentlemen, but the question is, what is the Wanjiku's pocket?
Yes.
I mean, because all of these discussions about Wanjiku, you and I, and that person out there watching. So what is in Wanjiku's pocket? Is there weight? Is Wanjiku feeling it a bit better? I mean, comme si, comme ça, where are we?
I think from where I sit, there are certain values that maybe we need to increase. Because Wanjiku currently is feeling the blunt of the economy. Because like Mheshimiwa here has said, that we are doing very good in the macroeconomic sense, but within the microeconomic sense, certain issues are amiss. Because when you look at, let's say, the payslip, it has shrunk in majority of the people who are within employment. When you look at the people who are within the private sector, those it's a little bit difficult to be able to move around with goods and services. However, there is hope, in the sense that the government right now should be applying its mind in terms of delivery for value addition in the most important sector. Because currently, if we need Wanjiko's pocket to improve, we need to get down to the production and do a lot more value addition. These are the cottage industries that are the minds and hopes of the people of this country. Whether we are processing basic agricultural products or we are producing equipment to be able to process that, we need to be applying our minds towards that. And having this concept, from where I sit, we require as counties, and this is the most basic tenet of devolution.
Yes.
Having the ability to experiment on various models of economic development at a very localized level from a very specific set of Kenyans who have similar characteristics, so that whatever is happening in Western region can be experimented in the context of Western region. Whatever is happening in the Central region, do the same. Whatever is happening in Coast, do the same. Whatever is happening in...
They meet
so that at one point, when we get at the national level, we are collecting production from different facets, fishing, blue economy, livestock, agriculture, small scale, large scale, and all of them adds to the GDP of this country, which also translates to the money in the pockets. As I conclude, let me just make one observation. If we need, for example, to increase that level of production at the county level, then the county has to be innovative. What we are proposing as Murang'a in itself, is introduction of what we are calling a Murang'a industrial city. This is specific on agro-processing and value addition. And we are applying the very few acres of land that we have, 1,500 acres, to establish a Murang'a industrial city for agro-processing alone. So that now there you have a commodities market, you have areas of SME parks that can experiment with cottage industry, where you can have manufacturers come and do value addition, so that the products that come from Murang'a can be value added and go all the way towards the market.
When you look at Lugari, for example, he's mentioned something quite fundamental, that you go every region. You know, the western side of Kenya, you know, we have got the lake region, we go to the northern part of Kenya, we have got different regions producing different things. What is your take on Wanjiku's pocket, so that at the end of the day...
I agree with the governor here.
Yes.
Up to where we are, they are still having pain in terms of meeting their day-to-day requirements. And basically, it's from two reasons. Many of the people in the rural areas are supported by people in the employment sector. And the moment there is a hit on the salaried people, it has a ripple effect. That's number one. Number two, for people of Lugari, the most commercial product there was sugarcane. And thanks be to this government that we are able to sort out the sugar issue with the Sugar Act. We are yet now to see its effect in terms of earnings per household, because that is where we are. At the macro level, we have produced enough sugarcane, all right? Now, with the law, we are now working on the pricing index. Once we get the pricing index, then we'll see the reflection. But there is a more important and fundamental issue which I want to associate myself with, that the drivers of production, which is the county government, requires to do much more. And this is, we have other products like the northern part of Kakamega, which is Malava, Lugari, and Likuyani, produces a lot of maize. In fact, the farmers, after this fertilizer subsidy, they produced more maize. But their problem was the pricing was a discouraging factor.
Because of the middlemen?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, and this is an issue that I've always said, we have to invest more in the cooperative movement so that farmers are organized under a cooperative system, and that cooperative system should be able to do what he's talking about. Yes. They should be able to do aggregation, they should be able to do marketing, they should be able to do value addition.
All right. Okay. Allow us to do this because my direct is on my neck. Ispak.
Tell him we invited us. We didn't invite ourselves here. Isn't it?
Yeah. Allow us to do this.
And today you invited the best.
Yes.
So you love trouble.
I'll be in trouble. Yeah. Let's listen to Ispak, because when you listen to this gentleman here,
yes,
there is a common denominator. Production, 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 production. So can Wanjiku take care of this? And what is the government's input?
I think the government has a big role in spurring production. The aggregation zones that we are talking about, the organization of that is largely in the hands of government, both national and county. But allow me to just probably bring this to perspective. If you don't organize a leadership at the county and national level, you expose a common man. We talked about pending bills at county level. That pending bill, as much as Mheshimiwa Nabi says they have the money, the reality is the biggest driver of pending bills in counties is overestimation of own source revenue. Once you overestimate that, you create a hole that you will never fix. And then, of course, abuse of that at county level.
Okay.
Then when it comes to audit reports, that's issue of accountability and corruption. Over 940 audit reports in the country since devolution began, only 8 are clean. What does it tell you? People are not accountable for resources. At national government level, the National Treasury was to roll out e-procurement. That has been pushed back. So these things, if we address them, we have issues around guaranteed minimum returns for farmers. If that can be buttressed, I think we could see a lot of changes in our country. Now, as I end, probably is to also note that the vulnerable amongst us in society, and I'm glad we now have over 1.2 million people under the social protection, up from 700,000. That speaks to looking at the bottom line, because poverty is hurting at the very bottom, and therefore there's need for us to target especially the aged and vulnerable.
Thank you. Gentlemen, you know, from where I come from, they say, "Meet Karumo." That's a French. It's always sweet when it's ending.
Maybe the...
Will Sosocion, today, I'm not giving you a closing remark. You're a gentleman. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Maybe...
You mean we have ended the show just like that? You see that?